The Super Mario Bros. Movie has exploded at the box office this weekend, setting records that very few people expected, even beyond some of the wildest dreams of folks like me at how well it would perform in its first 3 to 5 day Easter week frame. Well, now we know, and it is massive. Illumination Studios, in partnership with Universal Distributors and the Nintendo Corporation, have seemingly launched something that maybe not even they expected to be this big. And that is what will come down the pike, as we've previously reported, along with our friends like WDW Pro of thatparkplace.com. The Nintendo Cinematic Universe is here. And all the Walt Disney Company can do at this point is watch and cry. After years of bragging about box office dominance, it seems the Walt Disney Company will no longer even hold that mantle. Particularly not with family entertainment and animation, but that may spread far and wide to movies in general. Time will tell, but as of right now, when it comes to animated feature films, the king is dead. Long live the king. Well, folks, welcome back. Another great day here at Valiant Renegade. It's great to see everybody out there once again. And if you are like one of the many folks watching this video, not yet subscribed to this channel at Valiant Renegade, please take a moment, hit that little red subscribe button and turn it to gray. Hit that like button, hit that notification bell, share this sucker out on the social medias, and of course, please do leave a comment on your thoughts about the Super Mario Bros. Movie below this video before you head out the door today. This thing has been absolutely astonishing. The box office numbers continue to climb in their estimates as we go through from Wednesday to Sunday at this point. I'm blown away by this. We have seen numbers climb from a $250 million or so estimated 5-day, then to $300 million, then to $350, and now we are approaching $400 million between now and Sunday. But first, I want to give you some thoughts on this film, as I did get to go see it Thursday afternoon with my kids. And let me tell you what, it was excellent. We loved it. This movie is absolutely everything that I expected as a nearly 40-year fan of the Mario Brothers franchise to be, and so much more. All of the wonderful callbacks with the music, the characters, how everything looked, how everything felt. Illumination, Universal, and Nintendo deserve a massive round of applause because they hit this one out of the park. And we've covered before in the last video how, of course, the Rotten Tomato critics didn't seem to care much for this film, saying that the plot was a little too thin. The problem is, of course, I think, as Paul Tassi of Forbes magazine very correctly pointed out in a write-up that he did, and a Twitter post, that a lot of these critics just don't get it. And that's the problem. That's the disconnect. If this doesn't tell you the whole story of where Hollywood is versus American and global audiences, for that matter, I don't know what else will. A 56% Rotten Tomato score with almost 200 reviews in at the time of this recording, and a 96% audience score. Paul Tassi even commented in that Forbes write-up that he figured that, frankly, this number would hold, that there would still be at least a 30 to 40 point difference at the end of the day based on early Wednesday reviews from critics between them and the audiences. And nothing looks like it's changing. And if that wasn't enough for them to swallow, the cinema score even came in at an A. Audiences are going bonkers for this. It's a 90-minute thrill ride of everything you could possibly want as a Super Mario fan. And quite frankly, for the normies out there, quote unquote, that don't really understand or know a whole lot about the franchise, they are just lapping this up, and it's only going to get bigger. And before we get to the box office, let me just say this. What you're looking at right now in cinemas with the Super Mario Bros. Movie from Illumination, Nintendo, and Universal Distributors is a film that audiences have hungered for, characters they love, and quite frankly, a delivery of that was done in spectacular fashion, and something that the Walt Disney Company apparently no longer understands anywhere. I've been telling you for months, if not the last 2 solid years almost right here on Valiant Renegade, that the Walt Disney Company has a problem. Having spent years with braggadocio over the box office returns year over year because of the number of pictures that they released, the budgets and the marketing monies they spent. But then people recently like Ike Perlmutter, who got fired as chairman of Marvel Entertainment in the last week, we've covered that as well, said that one of his biggest issues with Disney was they didn't really care about what they were spending. They didn't care about the bottom line. They only cared about waving the flag of box office in the face of public media. Well, the problem is that flag has now been burnt to ash, as they no longer are the box office dominant force. Let's take a look at some of these numbers for Super Mario Brothers and some of the movies that they're being compared to, along with what the Walt Disney Company has released for family entertainment, if you can even call it that anymore. From Deadline Magazine and Anthony D'Alessandro, and the numbers are continuously updating more frequently than usual. Super Mario Bros. Hits high scores, record opening for the animated picture at now 377 million plus worldwide, a 5-day U.S. record at the box office with an estimated $204 million opening, that as of 9:44 p.m. Pacific Standard Time last night on April 8th, Saturday night. Quote, "It's still growing tonight," says one rival studio source who happens to be watching the nonstop booming late-night ticket sales for Illumination Universal's Super Mario Bros. Movie, which clocked in a $56 million Saturday. That's 2% over the already enormous Friday for what is now a $146 million 3-day massive 33,000 per theater average, and a record 5-day of, hold on, wow, $204.2 million per recent industry figures. That kicks Transformers Revenge of the Fallen's $200 million Wednesday to Sunday opening to second place among 5-day U.S.-Canada records. I also want to go back to the Saturday morning update, as I previously recorded for this video and then replaced with the Saturday night, and certainly there's going to be a Sunday morning one as well. But Illumination Universal's Super Mario Bros. Movie is still coursing for a 195 5-day opening. Now that has been updated to 205, roughly. But the bigger deal here is what they compare it to, and that is Walt Disney Company's Frozen 2, which had an opening, the biggest animated opening of all time until this weekend with Super Mario Bros., at $358 million. Of course, Super Mario Bros. Looks right now to beat that global opening haul by around $20 million. And there's more to the story than just beating Frozen 2, which of course was released by the Walt Disney Company back during the Thanksgiving Day holidays in 2019. There's some major issues there when you actually take into account the variance in global releases, and you're not going to believe how big it is. Here's Frozen 2 from 2019. You can see the total domestic box office run, $477 million. That is almost a guarantee at this point that that is going to get wrecked by the end of the run of the Super Mario Bros. Movie. The international box office is what we need to look at, standing at $960 million, an absolute huge win, a major success for the Walt Disney Company back in 2019, no question. But let's scroll down. You can see here the number one international market was China. China delivered a total of $125.2 million. And just beneath that, Japan, $122.2 million. And South Korea at $89.4. If we go down the list here, Japan had an opening of $17.8 million. And that opening ran virtually concurrently with the rest of the global market, opening on the same day, in other words, as it did here in the US and around the world. South Korea also had a 3-day opening of $28+ million for Frozen 2. And it also opened on the same day as Japan and most of the rest of the world. Now that's nearly $40 million additionally in global opening that went into the till for Frozen 2. The problem, of course, as we have previously acknowledged here in videos regarding this Super Mario Bros. Movie, Japan and South Korea don't have the Super Mario Brothers movie yet. They won't have it for another 3 weeks. If we look at the preliminary chart, which obviously has yet to be updated with international specificity, although we do know the totals to this point, look at Japan. It will not open until April 28th. Look at South Korea. It will not open until April 26th. Those two international markets alone accounted for more than $200 million of total box office for Frozen 2 by the end of its run, $40+ million on its opening weekend. Super Mario Brothers doesn't have them yet. That means that if we actually adjust markets on a relative like-for-like basis, at least taking out those two top 3 markets for Frozen, Frozen wouldn't have hauled in $358 million. It would have hauled in $318 million. And how does that look compared to Super Mario Brothers' estimated nearly $380 million as of Sunday morning? And I promise you, when you have a movie that's on the rise like this day to day, that means that by Monday or Tuesday, when the final box office figures settle for the opening 5-day weekend of Mario, it's probably going to be even higher than 368. I think this movie is going to get dang close to $400 million. And as we consider the powerhouse nature of what that actually involves, we're starting to get a very, very clear picture of where Universal Studios is going with their dominance at the box office for family and animated entertainment. This is a movie that could, if we look at Frozen 2 as a guide, may not just crack the $1 billion barrier, but it may crack the $1.5 billion barrier at this point. This movie is perfectly poised for massive amounts of repeat customer business, very similar to what we saw last summer with Top Gun Maverick from Skydance and Paramount. Audiences went in, they were handed something that they wanted, that they loved, that was beyond their expectations, and they went back. And the Super Mario Brothers movie, with a very reasonable, roughly 90-minute runtime, means that theater exhibitioners out there like AMC, Cinemark, Marcus, so on and so forth, and all the theater chains around the world are going to have a very easy time packing in as many viewings per day as they possibly can. And what does the Walt Disney Company have to say about this? Well, expect mostly crickets. This is a comparison between Universal Studios and the Walt Disney Company in 2022. The two movies that Universal released, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish and The Minions: Rise of Gru, both of these films came in under $100 million in production budgets. Lightyear and Strange World, the two headline pieces from the Walt Disney Company, and they were released in similar frames. Look at Lightyear versus The Rise of Gru, both major summer releases. Look at Strange World and Puss in Boots, both major holiday releases. Strange World during the Thanksgiving frame, Puss in Boots during the Christmas frame. Look at the production budgets of Lightyear at $200 million and Strange World at $135 million. And right off the bat, you can see exactly what former Marvel chairman Ike Perlmutter was talking about with cost controls and return on investment. This is something that Disney has become absolutely atrocious at accomplishing. Moreover, regarding the box office victory laps that Disney likes to consistently take in previous years, look at Minions: Rise of Gru, nearly $1 billion. Look at Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, nearly $500 million. And as I'll remind folks, Puss in Boots was only exclusively in theaters for 17 days before Universal opened the floodgates of PVOD, or premium video on demand, sales and rentals through licensed partners like Amazon Prime Video and iTunes. It didn't hit the actual Peacock streaming service as part of a subscription until several months after that. Meanwhile, Lightyear and Strange World combined lost a total of nearly $300+ million for the Walt Disney Company. And at this point, I can't say that the Walt Disney Company has anything better coming down the pike this year. The only major announcement that we know of for sure at this point is Elemental, another animated Disney feature that's coming out that looks an awful lot like one of their previous movies that they released called Inside Out. I don't know how well this is going to go for them, but there's really no buzz around it. And if anybody thinks a movie like that is going to beat a movie like Super Mario Brothers, you probably got another thing coming. And you have to wonder at this point, what is Disney going to do? Because having that mantle as the king of animation and the king of family entertainment in the box office each and every year was something that they have staked their reputation on. That has now been officially stripped from them. Universal is going to keep a death grip on this kind of thing, as well they should. They have a good thing going. It's starting with Super Mario Brothers, and I can tell you right now, The Legend of Zelda, that's next. The Nintendo Cinematic Universe is real. What is Disney going to do? I'm not sure at this point, but I don't care. I'm going to celebrate the victory of Universal, Illumination, and Nintendo and hope that they keep serving audiences as perfectly as they did with this film in their future endeavors.